Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Eye on Port. It is proudly brought to you by Ghana Revenue Authority, Goil Company Limited, West Blue Consulting, Ghana Community Network Services, as well as the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, media partners, business, and Financial Times. And like I always remind you, if you get a copy of that paper, the Thursday edition, you should read a lot more about the happenings within the maritime industry. Also, the graphic business, if you get the Tuesday edition, you should be reading a lot more about the happenings within the industry, particularly some of the issues that emerge from here. Tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. on GH1, the abridged version of this program will be airing on that platform. Also, 8:30 p.m. on Wednesday on Ghana Television, you should be watching an abridged version of the program. Our focus is to bring the port activities closer to you, and also you closer to that particular industry. And if you have paid particular attention this week, or the previous week, government set up a 40-member committee that's supposed to look at how best we can deal with the falling or the free-falling rate of our CEDI as a country. And some time back, if you take a look back somewhere around 2015 thereabout, it was told that that's when we recorded one of the highest inflation of our CEDI, around that time about 18% thereabout. Depreciation of our CEDI, 18% thereabout. We moved down to 2017, it got very better, 4.8 thereabout. In the year 2018, it was also better. Around that period, it was around 8.8. But in 2019, we recorded around 12.8. A lot of people feel that it's not too good a news. So that's about approximately 13% we can be depreciating along that line. And government has taken that bold step to say, let's form a committee and see if we can get some results and see how best we can hold on to our CEDI in the best way that it is possible for us as a country. So solutions are being looked for, and from the port perspective, we're also trying to see if we can help to find some of the solutions. So we want to find out exactly what that angle of the sector can also bring on board in getting solutions to the depreciation of our CEDI. That's what we're going to talk about, and the experts are in the studio. Some economists, some are part of the government's committee that's been set up, some are part of government itself, so ministers would be on as well. Some also understand the industry from revenue mobilization point of view and all of that. We'll be dealing with this particular subject, hunting solutions to the CEDI depreciation, the role that the port and international trade is going to play. When we return from the break, we'll commence that particular discussion. Stay with us.
Here's innovation from Goil that takes you further. New Goil Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes have been expertly crafted with the latest in liquid engineering technology, highly advanced for modern engines, prolongs oil change intervals, save you fuel, clean, protect, and enhance engine performance. The way engines work has become complex, and Goil has innovated to stay ahead. Expertly crafted lubricants that work excellently with all petrol and diesel engines of today. New Goil Super Synthetic 5W20 and 5W30 lubes. Innovation that takes you further. Goil. Good energy.
Dear valued client, the Ghana Trade Hub mobile app is now live to make it easy to track your consignment and know the estimated duty payable for both general goods and used vehicles. We are pleased to inform you that the Ghana Trade Hub mobile app is available for download on Google Play Store for Android users and the App Store for Apple users. This is the best opportunity for all importers and exporters to know the duty payable on every good under transaction. You can reach the team for inquiries and support by calling +233 242 435 663. Send an email to support@ghanastradinghub.com. To remain updated, kindly follow progress on the following platforms: www.facebook.com/Ghana Trade Hub, www.twitter.com/Ghana Trade Hub, and ghlinkedin.com/in/Ghana Trade Hub. Importers and exporters can download the official Ghana single window mobile app, which allows you to track your consignment conveniently and also allows you to obtain your estimated duty for general goods and used vehicles. Please spread the message to everyone importing or exporting. The Ghana Trading Hub mobile app is now live. Download and never be cheated. This is powered by the Smart Ports project under the auspices of the Government of Ghana and the Ghana Revenue Authority. Smart Port, improving Ghana's ease of doing business.
Ghana ye yenya ya sase o my kesi a ye kan ye hubom ye adwumaden ye be ye kese pa ye to a ye tuatua ne da no ene ne ye sisi suku adan ne ayaresabia ade bi yi akwan am ye nya asetena pa ene ne papi eto bi te say withholding tax, income tax, excise tax stamp ene afoforo pi wo ho a e bia na wo mu nsem bi safa de wo sa wutua nkasa ho enu nti ne ye wo ho ma wo ne se ye beboa wo eto akitua bia boa mesra wo boa ne peja
Fraud alert. GPHA does not auction. Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority wishes to inform the general public that the authority does not buy and sell on internet platforms and does not auction cars and other items in and around the port. Beware of fraudsters who claim to auction cars and other items in the ports and defraud people in the process. For further information, contact tema@ghanaports.net or call +233 303 202 758. Beware of fraudsters.
Welcome back to the studio. So we are discussing the solutions for the depreciation of the cedi. We're looking at the role that the port industry as well as international trade can play in all of these. You know that export, for instance, plays a significant role. The more export we're able to make, the more we're able to make a lot of that foreign currency, and so that we can have enough in the system so that the demand and supply aspect, there can be enough that when people are demanding, they will be able to get, and the money will be in the system also to supply. We would not have a depleted foreign international reserves, for instance. So we want to look at the role of the international trade, the role of the port when it comes to finding solutions to the depreciation of the Ghanaian cedi. So my guest in the studio would be Professor Peter Korte, and the Director, Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISE, University of Ghana. Prof, good to see you.
Nice to see you.
And unfortunately, for now, he's a lone ranger because his counterpart is just outside and will be joining shortly. That's in the person of Mr. Franklin Kujo, President of Imani. Shortly, I will introduce him as well. And I have two guests who are at large. One of them is strapped somewhere, but we can still see him, the Honorable Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Honorable Carlos Ahenkra. Honorable, can you see us? If you can see us, just give us a beautiful wave. Can you see us?
I'm here.
Good, good. Okay, so we can also see you. Honorable Carlos Ahenkra is the Deputy Minister who is in charge of Trade and Industry. He's also a Member of Parliament for Tema West, and he will also be contributing to the program from where he is. Also, we will have some input from the revenue collection point of view. So we will be talking to the former Commissioner of Customs, who is also trapped somewhere as well, Mr. Wallace Kofi Akondo, shortly. Prof, let me start with you. From where you said, and I know that you're former head of Department of Economics, Department University of Ghana as well. In terms of research, what's been the nature of our cedi for the past 20, let's say, 2 decades?
Well, the cedi, good evening to your discerning listeners. The cedi has, just like any other developing country's currency, has suffered considerable depreciation. But we didn't start from the floating. We started from different exchange rate regimes until 88, 89, when we had floating exchange rate. We had 2 windows, and then gradually we had a full-fledged flexible exchange rate regime. Since then, we've had series of depreciations in the currency. And it's not
so
surprising.
since when, 82 there about?
Yes,
I mean,
since we started the flexible exchange rate regime, we've had depreciations. Prior to that, when we had a fixed exchange rate regime, there was this marked gap or difference between the official rate and the black market rate. So it was quite difficult to get access to foreign currency, to even import, to do other things. But with a flexible exchange rate system, it became much easier for us to get foreign currency. But then that also comes with, it's a demand and supply issue. So based on the available foreign currency or dollar, and then also the demand for it, you will find the price being determined. So we had considerable depreciations. But the past few years has been quite rapid. In 2014, we had the highest rate of depreciation, let me say, the past 5 or 6 years. 2014 had the highest, about 38%. Then it dropped quite considerably in 2015. Still very high, about 18%. And it came down. 2016 was quite, I think, 10 point something percent thereabout. 2017, we've seen, we saw about 5%. So we were quite excited to see this. Then 2018, it started picking up. And 2019 has been quite an unusual period where we witnessed about 14%, roughly.
About 13%.
13%.
12.8.
Yeah, 13% rate of depreciation. So that has been the trend. We've had good periods and we've had bad periods as well in the exchange rate.
Okay. What would you say, aside the switch from the fixed to the flexible, what would you say have accounted for some of these continuous falling of the value?
No, it's quite obvious. It's a demand and supply issue. So if the demand for a foreign currency is quite high and it's increasing, and you are not matching with equal amount of supply, it will depreciate. One is our insatiable demand for imports. We import almost everything into this country. Even the things we can produce, we still like them, we still import. The case of rice, for instance. Rice is the 6th, if you rank our imports, rice comes out as number 6, yet we continue to import rice. Even when we have good rice, we still import rice. We import toothpick, we import water, we import so many other things. And that puts a lot of pressure on the foreign currency. We also have a situation where we are producing, but we are not actually producing enough. We are not adding much value. We export a lot of our products in raw forms. So if you don't add value, basically you're going to get little in terms of foreign currency. And also, we have multinationals in the system. They operate, they make profits, and they have to repatriate their profits. Our exports, to a large extent, yes, we report very high revenue, but to what extent, how much of this revenue is actually retained is what we need to look at. So there are several factors that explain, and the dynamics have changed. What determines the exchange rate 10 years ago is different from what determines the exchange rate now. I mean, we'll come to it. Traveling to China, Middle East, trading with the East has increased considerably. And with those kinds of trading, people undertake cash transactions. So that is something we need to bear in mind. We have multinationals who transfer so much out of the country. That is also something new. We even have the black market. The way they even operate has changed. Now, in the comfort of your home or your office, somebody will come on a motorbike and sell foreign currency to you. A lot of things have changed, and I think we need to look into, when we come to this new committee, my good friend is
Franklin.
Deputy Chairperson.
Oh, you're the Deputy Chair.
You're just kidding.
Oh, the Chairman, Deputy Chair, welcome.
When we come to that, but there's a lot we need to learn about the exchange rate, what determines the exchange rate. Then if we want to address it, we address it carefully.
Okay, so that's the purpose for which we are here. We're all trying to see how best we can assist the government as it sets up a committee to investigate and find solutions to all these. From our small corner, the contributions that we can also make coming from the industry that involves a lot of international trading activities. Now, frankly, the concern had been that since 2007 that we had a redenomination, for instance, the value of the cedi has dropped up considerably, about 80% thereabout. Now, and I referred earlier to the 2015 figure, which was terrible, around 18%, huge. Along the line, we were sort of making progress. In 2007, we were able to move up 4.8%. In 2017, I mean, 4.8%. 2018, we did 8.8%. And then, unfortunately, we got hit by 2019 figure, which was around 12.8%. What do you think is accounting for our inability to hold it up? And for instance, when we got to 4.8, the hope was that at least we could even bring it down further.
Well, good evening to your viewers, and good to see Professor Courtney. I hope you're well. Right, well...
oh, and I should have told you that, and they are watching you. We have guests who are from... they are watching us from afar, and they are going to contribute to it as well.
Oh,
so Honorable Carlos
interesting.
Ahinkra, you can see him. That's him on the screen.
Oh,
so,
I see.
he's spying, and he's part of the program.
Well, good
and
evening,
then Wallace will be joining us
Wallace as well. Well, I think Prof has started the conversation quite well. I think the currencies that are strongest in the world are simply because they have their, as they said, the fundamentals being very strong. And by fundamentals, if you want to extend that understanding or definition, it means that the economic systems are so robust that I mean, if you juxtapose the economic system, the economic systems produce a lot of goods that are able to sell internationally, and so to that extent, there's some comfort they derive from the currency that they own and for which they trade. If you take London, for instance, which is known as the commercial capital of the world, maybe as a result of their expansionist, colonialist project, they managed to, as it were, have their footprints all over the globe, and so it became easier for them to sell. But you ask yourself, even if you hate colonialism that much, they've managed to sell products. There's something they have developed or invested in that they sell. So the art of commerce alone is not the faulty, or is not the only thing that is winning the British, or making the British pound very strong. It is also because they have a strong industrial base. They have a strong skill sets, modern skill sets that are needed in order to build an economy. Germany, the same. They focus mostly on vocational and technical skills. So to the extent that the things that must be done or are done in these countries somehow have a futuristic in education itself, produce set skills that encourage the production of equipment, middle-level equipment, manpower, which can obviously produce anything that anybody desires in order to process their raw materials. For instance, we import, at the last count, I've forgotten the figure, but it must be somewhere around 20–25% of plant machinery from the UK. So it tells you that there's a reason why we are doing that, because we believe that they are efficient, right? And they have the skill set. So it's a mixture of so many things that I don't think we can quickly unravel all of them here. But just to say that it's a coordinated set of actions that ought to be taken. While the annual, obviously, refrain that our exports, I suspect all of these go into the mantra that we are importing too much and we are not exporting that much. If you drill down, it also has to do with our productive nature, which in itself is born out of our educational policy, for instance, and again, policies of successive governments, unfortunately, which have not helped. So that would be my little introduction to what I suspect is the reason in addition to, but let me just add that I think politics has also taken a significant toll. And by politics, that is in the arena of the fiscal, which I'm sure Prof. Kwothe is much more qualified to speak to than myself. That when the fiscal and the monetary aspects of governance do not meet, then clearly there are problems. And I can share some conversations we had on the lines of Senchi, because I was a member of a committee, part of the committee that was looking at the currency issues as well in 2015. And I asked the former governor a question: why are you not asserting your power in order to, as it were, rescue the CEDI? Then they said something that was profound, that, well, I'm looking towards the finance minister. That sentence may sound, or sounded at the time, as quite, maybe ludicrous, but it was loaded, which essentially meant that while he would try to, as it were, manage the currency, try to stabilize it and send out the signals, the exigencies within politics usually do not allow these things to happen. So if the SETECPE took a decision, for instance, where the wage bill was almost tripled at one point, with cascading effect all the way into 2015, that's a legacy issue the central bank governor wasn't going to deal with. But even if he wanted to deal with it, he would come head on with a politician who has pressing political needs to press. So when he said, I'm looking towards the finance minister, it was loaded. And I'm sure when we get into the details of the conversation, there are some actions of governments, not just the previous ones, but even this one, that has also had impact on the currency and its behavior.
Because on that coordination bit of the fiscal as well as the monetary, or if you want, macro and the micro, that's coming from Ministry of Finance against the Bank of Ghana. I'm sure a lot of people would have a different way of saying, because if he says I'm looking up to the minister, it may not necessarily mean that he's not getting the support. It may well be that they are waiting to coordinate, because the two must meet and talk to each other, don't they?
Two things. First of all, it is understood that by design, the finance minister, or acting on behalf of government, is not supposed to interfere in the work of the central bank. So that is understandable. That is the basis. In fact, we've done so well since Senchi. One of the things Senchi produced was this zero financing from the BOG. It was 5%, but now 0%, which is what one of the things Senchi produced. Contrary to what many people thought Senchi was a waste of time, it did produce something. So that is understood. But what I mean by looking up to the finance minister or government is that if you took a decision to, let's say, in your rush to somehow intervene in the market and stabilize the CEDI, you start charging, you introduce a raft of taxes on even financial transactions, which would have impact on the overall, on the macro, but also the very forex you definitely want to salvage. Because once that was done by TECPE, with all these taxes that were introduced, which constituted some of the nuisance taxes this current government removed, then what it means is that you are making it difficult for the central bank to actually actualize its role. I can extend that argument to benchmark values. You know, yes, as I said, we'll get into this. So it's not necessarily a friction, but our understanding that they are looking up to them to coordinate.
That's what I wanted you to get also clear. So fortunately, Honorable Carlos is on the other side. And what I would want to find out from you, Honorable, we've seen quite a number of significant interventions that we thought that it could also be good enough to deal with this whole depreciation that we are fighting for. For instance, I know that your ministry, there's a lot of good news coming from your end when it comes to export. I hear that you made quite significant growth when it comes to export. So can't that be something that we should have, that should have helped to deal with the falling of the CEDI, particularly in the year before, that's 2019. And if you can also throw a lot more light from where you said, what do you think are probably the reasons why we are seeing the numbers we're seeing today, and what can be done?
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. I must say that I didn't hear almost everything that has been said already.
Okay.
So if I repeat myself, you don't have to blame me.
We'll try and check
especially
that.
when I know that there are some very intelligent people sitting in the studio who are doing justice to this matter. I know that some of the things that I might say would be a repetition to what they must have already alluded to. You forgive me for that, viewers. Then also, let me apologize for not being there with you. You know why I'm not there.
Yeah.
It's just all because of some other important things that I had to find myself doing around this time. So I apologize. First and foremost, let me say that probably this is the first time that intelligent, educated technocrats are starting to feel that the let me say the book knowledge or the story from theory is not helping in the salvation of this depreciation. So I heard somebody talk about demand and supply. I heard other people also talk about the fact that the exchange rate shouldn't be depreciating the way it's doing now because, as you may be aware, since 2017, we have had surpluses in our balance of payments. So it becomes difficult now to find real reasons why all the economic theories have been achieved, but we're still facing some negativity in terms of the display of this currency. So it is the best thing that the finance ministry has done to set up a committee to look beyond the square and see if from the outside we can find reasons why this is happening. Is it happening because probably the informal banking sector, in quotes, the informal forex bureau, in quotes, I mean the black market, are they contributing to this fall? To what extent are they well, let me say, what extent are they contributing to the exchange rate depreciation of our cedi in this regard, and so on and so forth. So I think that what the finance minister has done is the best thing to do. And now I entreat all Ghanaians, anybody that has anything and thinks that they have some kind of solution to this particular situation, to take it to them and explain his part and see how we can help Ghana hold its own. In fact, I must be frank with you that there is no way we can discount the contribution of the contribution of the black market sector to these four, because it has been with us since time immemorial, and we know how effective that particular informal sector is. They can give you any amount of money at all that you want. Or if you have money today and you want to change $1 million as we speak, and they will change this money for you as if it's nobody's business. So I have a reason to believe that that particular sector or that particular department has some contribution to all that is happening. But anyway, let me try and see how I can bring myself back to the topic, because I realized that your topic has to do with how the maritime sector contributes or can contribute to the holding of the city, and stop it from depreciating. Paul, it is quite interesting that when we face situations like this, and as I said, if the theory is not working, we should look around and see how we can probably also reduce the outtake or the remittances or the removal of forex from our banks or our country. Why do I say this? If you know a bit about industry, It says that if your production is constant and you want to improve or increase profit, all you need to do is to reduce your overheads. And that is what approach I want the Bank of Ghana, Ministry of Finance to take. Okay. That if we think that we have hit that point where the balance of payment is positive, supply always outstrip demand, but yet still we are still facing this challenge. Let's see how we can tackle the exit part of all these processes and see how it can help us. For example, if I'm talking on the part of the maritime sector or the, let's say, the transport logistics sector, it is important for us to note that a large chunk of forex leave our shores in the name of freight. Freight.
Yeah.
And freight, as far as I'm concerned, is supposed to be that component of the transport cost, which the exporter did not pay at origin, but decided to pay locally. We call it freight collect. Now, I want the Bank of Ghana to go back 10 years, even more, and see how much monies have been transferred out of our shores in the name of freight.
Yeah.
And tell themselves how much this is affecting the CEDI depreciation or the removal of forex from our shores. Then we'll come down and check if this is real freight or this is some profit of some sort which somebody is expatriating or repatriating as freight. I have fought a certain fight for the past, since about 20-25 years, trying to explain to Ghana that we're losing money in a certain way, which is affecting us as far as our forest is concerned, but nobody seemed to be listening. Now, today, as I am in government, I have tried hard to push this information forward. And of course, as we have gotten to this point, the conversation is going to even start from now and see how I can help the finance ministry with this information.
Okay.
And Paul, it's very simple. Let me try and explain it. You realize that if I go, let's say you receive a parcel from anywhere in the world, UPS brings a parcel to your home. They knock on your door and say, Paul, you have received a parcel from the US. But before we give you this parcel, you need to pay us an administrative fee before we release the parcel to you. That can never happen, or that should never happen, because the cost of postage or the payment made to UPS in the US is inclusive of delivery.
Yeah.
And so nobody has the right to ask you to pay any more money in Ghana before you receive this parcel. If you go to the airport sector, it's very simple. The airport, because the ship airlines do not control the cargo once they deliver it to the terminal, because they do not have time and because of speed, they release the cargo with the documents to the terminal handlers and they fly back. So nobody takes anything on delivery of this cargo, with the exception of the terminal handlers who charge terminal handling charges. Let's enter the port. When you come to the port, there are some group of persons or group of companies that call themselves ship owners and agents. Let me use, for the benefit of this purpose of this argument, let me use ship agents. Now, these ship agents charge what some of them call it container fee. Some of them call it, they have so many names for these charges. And what is it for? They are taking this administrative fee before they release the cargo to you. Meanwhile, the freight that was charged the exporter from wherever includes this ship agent's charges, which they have negotiated with the ship owner. So under no circumstances are they supposed to charge any amount of money again before releasing the cargo here locally. The only charge that you have to pay here locally in Ghana is the terminal handling charges. When you go to some of the developed countries, the terminals are released to the shipping lines. So, for example, when you go to the Delta terminal of Antwerp, for example, you will see that it's Maersk Line that operates that terminal. So they charge the terminal handling charges, and the port of Antwerp will charge what they call the royalty. Here in Ghana, it is not like that. The operator landlord, which is the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, and by extension today MPS, they charge the terminal handling charges themselves. So once the shipping line releases the cargo to the terminal handler, the shipping agent has no other job to do on the cargo until it is released, unless they only have to release the cargo in their office. They sit behind a computer, release the cargo as per the instructions of the ship owner who has appointed him. Remember, you didn't appoint him as an exporter or importer. They sit behind their computer, they look at the bill of lading that you have presented to them, they compare it to the manifest that the ship agent has sent to them. If it's the same thing, the instruction is release the cargo to this person. If Ghana has any other instructions for them to abide by, they have to abide by Ghana's instructions also before they release. But here, Ghana requests nothing from them. They said that once the person has inputted his declaration, made his payment, and it gets to you for release, go ahead. We will handle the rest in the port with the port authority. So based on that mandate, ship agents are only supposed to carry out what instructions the ship owners have given to them from abroad.
Okay.
And that money or that cost has already been paid by the ship owner because it has been charged in the freight. Unfortunately, the shipping agents, because of our ignorance, are charging us even more money than the port authority and the MPSs who have invested large sums of money to deliver containers in the port.
I see.
For example, I have left the port for a very long time, so I don't know what the current charges are. But for the purpose of this argument, let me just use these figures. Before I left the port, somewhere in 2016, when I entered into politics, a 20-footer container was being charged anything between $150 to $200 as release charge, by administrative charge by the shipping agent. The port authority that had gone for loans to buy rich stackers and machinery to discharge cargo to importers was charging only about 195 Ghana cedis per 20-footer container. Meanwhile, these shipping agents were charging $200 for a 20-footer container. For what work? For just sitting behind a computer and signing a piece of paper that the goods have been released to you, called a delivery order, a deal. The goods have been released to you, go to the port and pick your goods. So you ask yourself, on what basis are these agents taking this money?
Okay.
On what authority are they collecting these monies from Ghanaians?
Okay.
And where does this money end up finally? It might interest you to know, my brother, that on an average basis, every year, close to $500 million is collected in this department alone.
I see, $500 million.
$500 million. How much do they pay to Ghanaians? Aside that, they charge about $143 million a year for demurrage on goods in the country alone.
143 million.
To help me do this exercise. And as I speak to you, I have the report. I'm going to present it to the committee, and we have to take this up, because if they alone are going to repatriate more than $700 million out of this economy every year, then you know where the dollar is beating us. So, Paul, I wouldn't like to take all the time.
I
wish that I'll have the opportunity to sit down and take us through the annals of maritime principles, so that we will see if, in fact, they actually have any locus in sitting here in Ghana and charging that money.
Okay, I think you are fine, even though you are not here. The input is significant, even regardless of the challenges that we're having now. I'm sure the panel, those who are in the studio, would have a question or two for you. But before then, you mentioned the fact that terminal handling charges, for instance, that are being charged here in Ghana are not supposed to be. According to you, the freight has been paid for at the origin, and so once it steps into the country here, there's no need for it. So that's being charged. And you feel that such charges are also contributing to what we have, and these are being done in dollars. The thing I want to ask from you is that, do you know whether the monies that are being collected as far as fees and charges by multinationals within the port space are being done through the banks, so that, you know, the bank is able to track these monies in terms of dollars, so that speculation is reduced some way, somehow?
Paul, you have asked a very intelligent question. And this is what I have been. In fact, when I was in private life, when I was
Carlos,
the president. Yes.
Carlos,
can you hear me?
Paul Adumochile says I should charge you for calling me Paul. But you are fine. Go ahead. Go ahead. Just go ahead.
I'm sorry, Ajima, I'm sorry.
No worries. You are fine. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. You know, Metro is very synonymous with Paul, so I'm sorry.
I know. Go ahead.
Right. So, sorry. Thank you once again. I'm very happy that you've asked this question, and this is where I want our Ghanaian intelligence services to set up, because some of these monies, as you rightly said, may not be going to the banking sector. But these ships, these vessels that call our ports, they all belong to these ship owners, and these ship owners have brought their people to come and sit here and call them agents. And when the vessel comes, they visit them with briefcases on the vessel. Who knows what goes on in that briefcase? I'm not making any allegation, but I'm just trying to speculate. Anything can happen, or anything could be happening. Because if it's true that we have had balance of payment surpluses for continuous 3 years, and we are still suffering this kind of canker, then it tells you that something is really happening. Because I know that when vessels come to the port, managing directors, worker staff, of these expatriate companies visit them on board the vessel. How do they visit them? What do they visit them with? What do they take on board? And so on and so forth. So basically, I think that we need to make a conscious effort to see how we can get this exercise done in a way which would, unearth anything and everything that is killing our city. I think this is one of the causes. I have been fighting this for 25 years now. And if I want to start the genesis, if you had time, I would have given you the genesis from when it started in 1987 to this point. At the point we got one of the ministers, Professor Amir Kufi, when he was the minister for ports and harbors, to call them to come and sit down and answer to my allegations. They couldn't find any answers. So he said, well, then this is what I'm going to do. I think that if you can't find any answers at all, you have been charging these monies over time, and it will be very unwise on my part to say stop everything entirely, because you have employed people. I don't know how you're going to pay them, so on and so forth. So we are going to charge $55 per bill of lading. Today they are charging per TEU, per 20-footer container. So if you bring a 40-footer container, they multiply it by 2. If you bring one bill of lading and you have 300 containers, they multiply by $200 times 300. So Professor Amir in his wisdom said that, look, guys, I'm going to allow you to charge $55 per 20-footer container. Per bill of lading. So when I bring a bill of lading and there's 1, there's 2, there's 10, and there's $55. And in any case, you don't do any work at all. All you have to do is to just sit in your office and give me a delivery order, a deal. After all, the container evacuation is all covered in the freight by the ship owner. So you give me the container. When I go and stop my cargo, you tell me where your container yard is. I bring the container there. That is why if you look on the bill of lading, you see the delivery term written clearly, container yard to container yard. If it's CFS to CFS, you see the CFS to CFS. If it's warehouse to warehouse, you see warehouse to warehouse. In this case, it's always container yard to container yard. So why is it that I have a certain a contract of affreightment with you? The contract says that the delivery term on the it should be container yard to container yard. So you bring a container, I give the goods to you. I pick the container at export, a container yard at a destination. Now, when I'm done, if you decide to give me the container to take to my warehouse to unstock, I bring it back to where you call your container yard. So that when your vessel comes, you go and put it on it and take it back. All this is covered in the cost, and it is in the contract. So why are you charging me about let me say 5 times or 6 times how much the port authority is charging for terminal handling charges?
I think that point, Carlos, I would love for you to move away from this point. I'm going to ask you another one that has been clearly stated, but because you're having, where you are hiding is some way. Let me just punch all the port issues, and then in case we lose you at some point, it wouldn't be a problem. So now you talk about the charges again, and the details, I'm sure when you get the opportunity to meet Franklin's committee and the rest. You can make all of that available. But the other thing I also want to find out from you is the issue of the dollar that changes. When it comes to duty rates, for instance, the dollar changes every Tuesday as we speak. At some point, we were hoping to have a fixed exchange rate regime at the port, and it didn't happen. And so, as it stands, every Tuesday, that's every week, the rate of the dollar changes when it comes to the custom duties. If you hit some of the other agencies, the private companies, for instance, it even changes twice in a week or 3 times in a week. What about that area? Would you say that can also be a factor?
Well, Paul, no, I don't see how this one can be a factor. Because the fact of the matter is we are looking at clearance of goods into Ghana. And the Bank of Ghana would have to match the amount of money you are paying with a certain dollar rate. Because don't forget that once you decide to import goods into the country, immediately you decide. That's why we have the import declaration for. Once you declare your intention to import, you owe government some money, and the money you owe government is the duty component of those goods. Now, if you would pay all those, if you give government the intention today and pay all those duties today, the value of money today will be different from how much it will be next 3 weeks. So the reason why government pays interest charge weekly with the interbank to, as it were, determine how much duty anybody is supposed to pay is to support the exchange rate disparity, so that if, for example, we peg exchange rate, like let's say 5 Ghana cedis, well, somewhere in December, and we are still using 5 Ghana cedis in January, and today is, let's say, 5.5. It means that government will be losing out on the duty charges, 50 cents cost on every duty that they charge, which of course would also play negatively against our target. However, a lot of arguments have been made that why should we even sit in Ghana and decide to charge our monies or duties in dollar? Why should we sit in Ghana and wait for exchange rate before we're able to input our declaration? It is very, very true. It makes a lot of sense. But for the reasons that I've alluded to, that government would have to make sure that that money that he wants to get, let's say if government says a target of 60 billion Ghana cedis, that 60 billion Ghana is supposed to correspond with a certain amount of dollars at the time of presenting the budget. So if they want to live by that figure, that means that going forward, any step of the way, they have to consider the exchange rate at that point to ensure that before or at the point when they get the $60 million, if it's equivalent to, let's say, $1.15 billion, they should get the $15 billion. We have made arguments, we have made presentations to the finance ministry for them to understand that it's another way to look at the duty rates that importers were crying about. If when you want to consider duty rates or reduce them, you can either check your interest rate, look at the value as our vice president intelligently did, or consider the rates. In this case, the rates would have to go through parliament. So that one is not under the purview of the finance ministry or Bank of Ghana or GRE. But the values that are attributed to any imports are the sole prerogative of GRE and by extension Ministry of Finance. The dollar pegging is the sole prerogative of the Bank of Ghana and by extension the interbank rates that comes out every week. So that one can be handled. Then I can assure you, in fact, even before we even finish this program, that a lot of discussions has gone on at pegging it for some time before we change again. Let's say a month to start with, so that after 1 month we see how this works. If we are able to control the depreciation and the fastness of the depreciation, I'm sure that exchange rate will be paid for 6 months and nobody will even think about it, because we know that the city is not, going down as fast as it should be doing. But if we do that now, Paul, every month the government of Ghana is going to lose some money as far as revenue is concerned.
So that point very well noted. We hope you'll be hanging around there, because we'll pick some thoughts from that, having set the tone from the maritime or the port angle for us. Prof, before I come to you and Franklin, Mr. Kondo, who is a former commissioner, joins us on the line. Now, he holds a different view when it comes to pegging the dollar to a certain extent. Say, hold it up to about 6 months, half a year or so before you can transact with them. Mr. Kondo, are you on the line? Hello.
Yeah, I'm here, but as I told you, I can't hear too.
Hello. Okay, I think the line is very faint. So, hello, Mr. Kondo. Okay, so I think we lost that, but we'll get to him from that side of the. Hello, Mr. Kondo.
I'm on the line.
Okay, so we can hear you now. I was asking, from having been a former commissioner of customs and having the understanding of the way the duty works, I wanted to find out that what do you make of the pegging of the dollar thing that has been touted all this while? Because a lot of people feel that if you change dollar rates for duties every week, and you have been a commissioner, changing it every week, what impact do you think that would have on the value of our city? Okay, I think we have a bad line, so we can hardly hear him. Let's fix that and then we'll go back. Prof, you listened to the minister. First of all, he talked about quite a number of things, export, for instance, and mentioned that some of the what we would call the fundamentals or the factors that would probably cause depreciation, some of them are already looking good, according to him, relatively. And so, you know, it becomes a bit worrying that we are seeing some factors being good, export, for instance, going well for him, and we are having balance of trade surplus since 2016, and still we are seeing depreciation going on. So with that, government is looking for solutions. And then he comes to the port aspect. First of all, do you think those factors are looking okay to the extent that with those factors we should be fine? And if we should be fine, where do you think we need to be looking at? Is the area he mentioned, the port area that he mentioned, and the fact that some charges are not warranted and all of that, a factor that we should be targeting?
Well, I think I listened to him. He gave some brilliant insight into the whole port operations, which was good. Yes, there is a disjoint between theory and practice because we have surplus trade, we have trade surplus, we have a lot of reserves, but we still see quite significant depreciations. Then you ask why. It looks like, yes, the fundamentals are relatively good, I must say. When we talk of fundamentals, basically deficit, inflation, GDP growth,
price stability.
You know, relatively, they are not the best, but relatively, I think they look good. And even right recently, yesterday or so, I read that Moody has revised our rating, the outlook from stable to positive. So it tells you even the international committee accepts that
recognize some bit of growth,
some bit of improvement in our fiscal position and many other things. However, what the Honourable Minister failed to address is the demand side issues. Of course, he mentioned the institutional bottlenecks, where the ship owners sometimes even they go and visit on the ship. You don't know, they carry briefcase. You don't know. It's all over, even through our airport. We know.
I see.
We know multinationals travel. They carry briefcases.
Fiscal cash.
Fiscal cash. Our traders move to China. They carry over $100,000 and more. We have done a study on transnational trading, and it's quite amazing how much cash they don't use the banking system.
Why?
They carry cash, because I'm told most of them don't operate in Beijing. They move to Guangzhou and other places where it's easier, more comfortable. If you had the cash, then you can transact easily. That is where policy comes in. If you can help set up some agents or banking agents or institutions there to facilitate trade, then all this carrying of cash and the risk and everything wouldn't be there. So we have the institutional problems. You have ship owners carrying money away. And you see, no matter how much foreign currency you bring into the system, Bank of Ghana pumps into the system, it will leak.
Yeah.
Because
you bring and it's taking out,
it's gone.
not through the banks.
We are supplying the ECOWAS market.
I see.
Let's be honest with ourselves. We are supplying the ECOWAS
with
market.
Dollars.
With dollars. People come from Benin, wherever, they come, they put it in lorry ties, in suitcases and whatever. Wow. They take them away. In any decent, serious country, if you walk into a forest bureau to change money, they ask for your passport, you need to fill a form, they record the key into a computer. What happens in our case? You walk in, you walk out with money.
Yeah.
You walk to at the airport, people greet you, they want to change money. At Kotoka right now, they give you money, they change. Instant.
And depending on your value, then you bargain
you bargain and get it away. At the black market operators, there are motorbikes. There are motorbikes now, as I mentioned earlier. You can sit in the comfort of your home, they bring it to you, off you go. So now people store wealth in foreign currency because it's easier to just hold it instead of holding on to the CEDI. We haven't addressed the demand side problems. I can go on and on and on.
Before you go on, Mr. Akondo is on the line. So let me get his take on the bit of the pegging of the dollar thing within the duties. Hello, Mr. Akondo.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, Mr. Akondo, we can hear you loud and clear now.
Yes, I can hear you too.
Okay, so I was asking whether the fact that we have the dollar changing in some instances twice in a week, 3 times in a week, and in your case, means that you from the import duty side, because you have been a commissioner of customs, and even at your time and before then, the duty changes almost every Tuesday. How does that impact on the devaluing of our dollar?
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Of our CEDI, sorry.
I think Carlos was about to answer that aspect of it when you cut him off. The point is that the economists in your studio are competent enough to deal with the issues of why the rate is going on. And the problem is structural. It's the forces between demand and supply. So that is what it is. If you don't have enough forex to match the demand, you have the rate going up. And I think that is what Prof. Doc was trying to address when you barging. But beyond that also, it's the administration of the exchange itself. And Carlos have mentioned some aspects of it. Now, look at the average international trader we get in. It is not nothing that the World Trade Organization came up with the agreement on customs valuation. And I want us to critically look at it now that we are talking about the impact on our forex. It means that we have moved from the nominal value for tax purposes to the current value, which is the transaction price. And it is defined as the price payable, the price paid or payable for goods in export from country A into importation in country B. So, as much as possible, we must get a value that approximates the actual transaction price. In the absence of doing that, what we are resorting to fictitious values and all kinds of valuation processes that are not compliant, you might not see that it impacts on our forex. Because maybe for revenue purposes, I've been in a consignment of $100,000, and I'll not be able to provide information on my value. And so that value, that price is jacked up to $200,000. I'll end up paying CEDIs to you, calculated on that $200,000. But then I go to the bank to provide evidence that I've brought into this country $200,000 worth of goods, and I'm repatriating the money out. And I take the extra $100,000 out of this country. Which one hurts you more? Which one do you want? The CDs that I pay as taxes to you, or the extra forex that are taken out of this country, which was based on an artificially determined value for the consignment that are imported?
It will be the dollar then.
So it is very, very important that we should go back and solve the base. You know, valuation has been a very big challenge in customs for all this time. And in trying to solve it, we have done all kinds of schemes, from destination inspection, pre-shipment inspection, to destination inspection, to all manner of schemes. Ironically, we have just thrown good money at a lot of these schemes, but we have not solved the problem of valuation even up to today.
Okay, so
and I think that it is time that we practically solve the problem. We should face it head on and solve it once and for all. Because if we do not,
okay,
if I'm trying to know, and I know that all you are interested in is CEDI in terms of revenue, because I generated money from drug or from illicit trade or something, and I bring goods in, and I know that you're only interested in a value. So I don't really manage to check my values. You generate the CEDI revenue, and I manage to now, after I have watched the transaction, go and try to repatriate good money now out of the country.
Okay.
Also, look at the issue of capital price.
Yeah.
If the actual price of the transaction is $100,000 and you get it up to $200,000, and I go to the bank to transfer out of the country $200,000, it's capital price.
Yeah.
Precisely. And it is interesting that we see these things on the major transaction that is happening on the multinationals and big companies and some of the investors that are coming, even government projects. There are times during my career that we could see freight on a 20-footer container quoted at $100,000. $100,000 just hit in one 20-footer container. And these are projects. These are major government projects and things. And most of these transactions, rather, are tax exempt. You even end up collecting no revenue at all on them. So the investors come, that's the evidence of the investment they have brought, and they are entitled to repatriate their money out.
Yeah.
That is one aspect of it.
Okay.
The other aspect is about how long the rate of exchange lasts for purposes of transaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that every week the rate changes.
Yeah.
That period is too short. So what it does is that it creates tension.
It creates tension among importers?
And the importers. Because the man has from Tuesday to the next Monday for the taxes that have been assessed based on the previous week's rate of exchange. And by next week, the rate is changing.
Yeah.
Now, look at the cycle of the transaction. From the time that the businessman orders his goods, then the exporter arranges and sends the goods, it is carried over. Normally, you have a period of about 30, 60 to 90 days for the cycle. Now, if at the time I initiate the business, the rate is at, say, 5 cedis to the dollar. By the time the cycle is completed after 90 days, when I'm due to make payment for it, the rate has now escalated from 5 cedis to 5.5.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that does not reflect the actual transactions of the business. It does not reflect the actual price or pricing of the business, because why don't you look at the rate at the time when I initiated the business? Because that is the basis on which I'm doing all my calculations.
Okay.
So government may want to look at, rather than having this weekly transaction, maybe you can use the weekly for other transactions. I mean, people who are buying forexes to do petty businesses. Therefore, transactions in the port for purposes of delivering tax, to look at a longer duration.
Than the 1 week.
That factually overlaps the actual trade cycle of the importation.
Okay.
That would be more reasonable. It also is the tension.
Okay.
So we have to look at the issues of the capital flight, the issues of money laundering. We have to look at the issues of the frequent adjustments of rates for purposes of the customs tax.
Okay.
And for export, because the inflows are the exports.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the exports that bring us how much money, how much forex will be available in the basket. And we have to increase, all the facilities that we can to increase forex. Now, I don't know how the earnings are now being monitored by the central bank.
Yeah, I think it's been raised.
That time, they're using the A2 form. This is the Bank of Ghana A2 form. And that is what is used to repatriate the earnings abroad. I don't know what contains this now.
Okay.
Whether the Bank of Ghana is able to follow through with every export that goes out, and how it supervises the repatriation of those earnings abroad, and how they are brought into the country, and how they are expended.
Okay.
If the control breaks down, then the inflows that we are expecting will definitely be affected.
Okay.
And that is one area that you really have to look at carefully.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. I think on the part of the export, the LOC now we are told is taking care of it, where we have the letter of credit. Every export that you made, they ensure that you repatriate the amount of money that you have earned within a certain stipulated period through the banks. So hoping and that's been handled by one of our sponsors, GCNet. So hoping that that's working. But Franklin, from what the Honorable Minister said, and then what Mr. Akondo is also saying. So if you can tackle the bit about the exchange rate changing almost every Tuesday, and then also you can move on to talk about some of the issues that the Honorable Minister had raised as part of the reasons why he thinks the city has been affected in that direction.
Well, first of all, any semblance of a fixation of a currency, the exchange rate in itself is an intervention that defies the market order, which is why Mr. Akondo rightly says that by the time you are done dealing with that particular transaction for which you had imported goods and paying back, then clearly the pot of money you had originally would have been dwarfed.
Yeah.
Maybe an electronic system that responds in time may be useful, because obviously what you want to do is not to, as it were, somehow unsettle the market. You want to fix it, but which you thought that's the wisdom with which you need to approach it. But the fact of the matter is that trade happens in real time, and international trade responds to international currency movement. So I think while that approach may seem to have been the way to go, clearly it's not working. And I think that it is important that the information systems that we have in this country, in terms of how we value our produce, of course value our imports as well and exports, are actually captured in a much more, in a much more transparent manner. I do not yield to this benchmarking forex exchanges at all, because invariably what it does is that it disadvantages the importer at the end of the day, whereas you'd have thought it is actually helping them. In the scenario where the currency falls further than expected, then they are shortchanged. And I'm not too sure. I think we need an electronic system, which is why the conversation around this committee is to look at innovative ways to fix currency flows as well. One of it could be if it is possible to link all these transactions electronically to the banking system, so that at the end of the day, first of all, you get your real values in time, nobody pegs a value. And I think this originates, maybe I should be corrected, but this fixation of currency or fixing of currency originates from the fact that, well, depending on where the product is coming from, you needed to pay in a particular currency. I don't know whether that has been changed to benchmark it against the dollar. But presumably if you're importing from Europe, do you pay dollars or you pay the euro?
I think everything is in dollars. And you pay a CEDI equivalent as well.
Well, then it should be easier to determine, and it should be done, it's a spot check, really. I mean, just as we do spot checks when we are going to purchase currency, because when you go to the bank and you want to buy currency, they give you the rate as of the day, even as of the time. So I don't see why it should be different at the ports. I think the other thing I need to lay into, which Mr. Kondo rightly suggests, is that while Mr. Ahenkra, my good friend Ahenkra, laments the fact that agents may be doing odious business and benefiting and, as it were, externalizing the forest flows, well, I do not know whether their activities are illegal, but you see, if you manage to fix this system of transmitting money in the system, and then you know exactly who is transmitting what, I think that gets solved quite easily, without necessarily suggesting that the activities of agents are wrong. One of the things that I find confounding is that while we seem to be suggesting that other parties are responsible for this action, somehow the actions of government itself, through its trade policies, also compounds the problem. Something Mr. Kondo was actually relating to when it comes to valuations at customs. You know, we've had varied valuation systems, valuation whatever, systems to determine values. And as we speak, we all know the battle between the Unipass and GCNet and West Blue, right? And this is also not one of the things that is convincing people that we're actually taking our trade facilitation quite serious. Why is CTN, by the way? Why was it introduced? If you look at the charges that people that the ports, well, people who use the ports are paying, if you look at the build-up, there are certain costs there that are charged by persons who may be delivering, who are actually not delivering any value. And as we speak, we are trying to change a system that at least has helped so far in terms of verifying imported products in terms of their values, and want to replace it with Unipass, which is largely untested and is causing all manner of confusion.
Well, I think, yeah.
No, but so my point is, you see, you cannot be at the same time be encouraging government revenues, which would somehow shore up our CEDI reserves, and at the same time engaging in, you know, trade policies that are not sound, and by that way actually affect our own revenues, which eventually affects our reserves as well.
Yeah, we'll probably
be talking about those in detail.
Yeah,
but I think that I say something else as well. At the end of the day, I ask myself, if the economy was being run in a manner that would encourage people to invest whatever gains they have made, whether through illegal means or through legal means, I'm sure this conversation will not be having it. Because if I feel that it is much more prudent to invest whatever gains I've made as a multinational way back into the economy and make more money, or maybe the stock exchange is so attractive that I list on it, then somehow you are helping in reducing all these conversations about externalizing our forex flows. I think that's a hard conversation that we also need to have.
Yeah, but also, I mean, it may not be all the multinationals who would want to either invest within the system or do something with the earnings they make. Some would definitely want to repatriate to their principals back home, and that you probably cannot do anything about.
Yeah, but that may not necessarily be wrong. It depends on how they do the repatriation. If it is illegal, obviously it's illegal.
Yeah. But Prof, so Mr. Kondo, for instance, talked about the tension that probably this can create when it comes to demand. Because if I know that by the next Tuesday, the rate will change, and I have 1 week to clear, I would definitely rush, demand more, and then go be able to meet the deadline. So that also creates tension. It pushes people to demand a lot more. And so if we don't have enough in the system to supply, then you'll be heading towards depreciation, which would then, excuse me. And at some point we had the vice president requesting or directing, as a matter of fact, that we fix it for every 3 months. That was around April 2010 thereabout, 2019, April last year. Thereabout. That directive came, but last week when we had the Commissioner General here, he revealed that that is not being practiced. It's still the 1 week, every week it changes. From where you said, how do you think this can impact the depreciation of the city still?
Yeah, you see, economic agents certainly act rationally. I mean, if I know I'm going to incur higher costs in terms of duties, then I'll react in such a way that I might even try to hoard the dollar in anticipation that it may rise. So by fixing it for a period, I will support the idea of fixing it for a month.
For a month?
For a month.
Not beyond that?
Not beyond that. For a month, and then every month you review. But also, it shouldn't be a one-way flow. I believe if the authorities could also ensure that the rate of depreciation doesn't happen quite rapidly, and then you fix it for a month, you know, then we can all accommodate. But it's not a one-way thing that you fix it, yet you're not managing the system very well, and then there's this rapid depreciation. And for me, I think we have done a lot with the supply side issues. There are still issues though, but we've done a lot in terms of promoting exports, getting more revenue. We haven't addressed the demand side issues. There are some demand side issues that, as I mentioned, the illegal repatriation and what have you, we haven't addressed them.
Aside illegal repatriation, what else?
Aside illegal repatriation, yes, we also find a system where people operate on the forest market without
the black market.
The black market, and you know, why don't you absorb them? Why don't you register them? Why don't you manage such?
Are they absorbable?
Activities? Can
we absorb them?
Well, once you register them and you're able to track the operations, then the activities become more formal. So you know exactly how much flow goes on. But I don't think we've done much with those areas. And they are, day in, day out, new products are coming in. Recently I learned even one of the multinational banks have introduced US bond, where if you have a foreign currency account, they could buy, invest in US bonds. So basically, money is going out. I don't know whether Bank of Ghana knows about this or is legal within the framework. I don't know, but gradually we find
the CEDI equivalent or the dollar itself.
The dollar itself. So that's another way of taking money out. I engage a few bankers, and they admitted yes that they've heard is going on, although their bank is not doing it. You know, so we have a lot of leakages in the system, and I believe once we address all of this, the Honorable Deputy Minister mentioned some, the former Commissioner mentioned, if we address all of this and then we work on the structural problems, the supply side issues, we bring in more dollars, in my view, that will work.
Okay.
You see, with the port, there are two issues there. You fix the rate for a month, then review. Then also you harmonize the rates. Because you go to an agent, it quotes one price, you go to the other, it quotes...
That is what I was going to come to as the next.
Different prices. And that brings uncertainty, it brings anxiety within the system. You could say, look, this is the rate all institutions within the port should apply. I know in the international community they use Oando or exchange.com.
Yes, so
there are benchmark, standard ways of using
to harmonize it.
So we are all going to tap into exchange.com to determine the rate, and all of us, or we're going to use Bank of Ghana rate. All of us will apply that rate,
and even the multinationals should comply.
Everybody should comply.
But could that be done for close to a month? without the...
No, if we are using that,
then we can tweak
then we can just allow it to flow. That one is much more standard across board. So we are all tapping from Oando.
So that one you don't have to fix it.
You don't have to fix it. So all the institutions within the portal.
So it changes anyway within the month.
Exactly.
Because there's a particular source.
Yeah, it changes.
Okay. So it brings me to this story that I'm going to play, because that's the Vice President at some point had agreed with exactly what you just said, that we should find a way to harmonize it. And then, at the recent town hall meeting too, it had been raised there. And even Honorable Osafoma, for the minister, senior minister, equally used the example that you used, that somewhere that he had been exchanging money takes a lot of, there's a lot that you need to go through. Bring your passport, do that, and it's probably...
According to the Bank of Ghana, the Ghana CEDI recorded a depreciation of about 12.3% against the US dollar in the first 11 months of 2019. The BOG data also shows that the local currency registered an 11.23% depreciation against the pound sterling and a 7.16% depreciation against the euro during the period under review. According to data compiled by Bloomberg, the CEDI is down 13% so far in 2019, poised for the worst decline since 2015 when it slammed 18%. As at 23rd January, the CEDI was trading to the dollar at 5.52 cedis and the pound sterling at 7.25 cedis. Several reasons have been outlined as the cause of the CEDI's continuous decline in value against major trading currencies, including balance of payment, price stability, interest rate differential, market speculations, depleted international reserves, among others. In the port industry, for example, some importers have called for the pegging of the dollar rate at least for about a quarter of the year to ensure some sort of stability for engaging in international trade at the ports.
Our problem about the duty is the pegging of the dollar. If after all this and the dollar is not pegged, I think when the dollar goes up, we will still face the same problems we've been through.
This call came about because at the moment, the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority reviews the dollar rate required to pay the duties every Tuesday, while some shipping lines review their dollar rates for payment of fees and charges almost 3 times or 2 times a week, weekly or monthly, depending on the direction of their discretion. On Wednesday, April 10, 2019, the former Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Emmanuel Kofi Inti, during a visit to the traders at Abosokai, announced that there was going to be a fixed forex rate regime at the port by pegging the dollar to 5.08 cedis for 3 months before taking the next decision. According to the former Commissioner General, this was a directive by the Vice President, which the Revenue Authority was complying. Quote, "We got the directive on a fixed exchange rate for your trading purposes at least for the next 3 months. I can assure you that the rate has been pegged at 5.08 Ghana cedis for the next quarter until another review is done. The Vice President has directed and we have complied." End of quote. However, for nearly a year since this announcement in the directive, it is confirmed by the current Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority that the authority is yet to implement fixed exchange rate regime where the cedi's value is pegged against the dollar for at least 3 months at the port.
If you go to the banks, you will not get one exchange rate running. In fact, in the banks we change exchange rates every day.
Again, admittedly, business at the port border on international trade. Therefore, it is expected that all transactions are hinged against the US dollar, which is the major international trading currency. However, importers, exporters, and the port trading community have often questioned why most of the multinational agencies, particularly shipping lines, have their own exchange rates quite different from the rate the Bank of Ghana releases on a daily basis, hence contributing to the high cost of doing business at the port. The Vice President in 2017, after winning power, visited the port of Tema and in an interview with Iron Port indicated that even though it's a free market, the rates at which agencies and institutions peg their interest rates must be harmonized.
Everybody's in the same market essentially, and it is one complaint that we have had. so that if you go to one section, you pay a different exchange rate to another section. And so we will have to, it's of course a private market, a free market, but we want to see some harmonization so that there is at least some standardization for all the players in this particular port, so that you don't have those types of frustrations.
The senior minister, Yao Osafo-Mafo, at the Economic Management Team Town Hall meeting, lamented the rate at which some institutions and businesses trade in dollars without supervision.
In Ghana, however, people are trading in our currency and in the dollar without any supervision and regulation, and this is undermining the economy.
There have also been questions about whether the nation is able to track all monies that are accrued by the multinationals in dollars through the payment of fees and charges which are made in the CEDI equivalence of the dollar rate. Suggestions have therefore been made to the effect that importers must be made to make all payment transactions at the port through the banks, with the hope that when all transactions are done through the banks, speculation, which starts at the Forex Bureau and black market, will be minimized. Undoubtedly, in many economies, from Singapore, Netherlands, Malaysia to China and so on, the ports have been strategized to change the dynamics of those economies, and every serious government blessed with the ports have made it a priority to control its overall national economy. Ghana's ports not only drives the nation's economy but serves as a wheel on which three major neighboring landlord nations of Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger run their economies. Hence, the port industry in Ghana, when given the real attention it deserves, can play a key role in ensuring that the nation's currency stands the best of chances to make some gains rather than losses against its major trading currencies.
Okay, so you can send some of your comments on the subject that's been discussed, looking at solutions for the depreciation of the dollar, particularly coming from the angle of the ports and international trade. The WhatsApp number is 055-901-9177, 055-901-9177. We will read your suggestions with the rest of the world as well as our panel here. But Honorable Carlos Ahinkra is still on the line. I want to find out from you, Honorable, the issue of having some of the agencies, and particularly the multinationals within the port space, charging different rates by themselves, and they alter it as and when. That is not too certain when they do that, and by what rate, by what measure do they do they calculate their own rates? That is also not certain. Some have called that we have a harmonized system. Do you think this can also impact on depreciation of our value, of our city?
Well, Paul, thank you once again. I think that the multinationals, as you've said, at the point had an association that was fixing these prices. Then when this antitrust laws became effective, and said the association was only meant to be
I think the line is a bit jerky. Let me come to the studio and then yes, so that we work it out quickly. Maybe Franklin, because Prof talked about this earlier, do you think that we should have a harmonized system of this rating around the industry? Because as you may have listened in that piece there, almost all the shipping lines have different rates for the dollar. So you have one charging 5.86, one charging 5.65. Meanwhile, you have the BOG standard around 5.4 thereabout. And the argument is that it's a free market, you can do your own, but should we let it all loose like that?
The way I see it, the BOG rate is more like the originating rate, but because the currency, they trade the currency in the market, people have different margins. Maybe an average of those margins could be used. But again, I'm at pains to see how fixing it for a month more would actually yield any results. Because the challenge with the currency is that, I mean, the volatility is real. And it's due to the, obviously, factors usually we don't necessarily control as well locally. So it's a bit difficult, but if they could do the fixing and then allow a margin they anticipate would result, the margin that would compensate the fall within the month, then maybe yes. But I can understand that because it's a market, others may want to determine their own rate. But if we can look at all these rates as Prof suggested, the WANDO, the forex market rates that we see, and even our own local rate, and strike an average, and then you hold that for a week or two, and in anticipation, obviously, factor in certain volatility, then maybe that could be useful.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, the fact of the matter really is that trade is done in real time.
Yeah. Let me get Honorable Carlos back. I am told that he's back on the line. Hello, Honorable. So, do we have him? Okay. Honorable, if you can hear me, what do you make of that? Is it possible that we can have a harmonized?
I can hear.
Okay. Is it possible that we can have that harmonized rates within the space there, the port space? Okay. I think his network is still bad. So, but Prof, you made that suggestion that there's a medium that this can be used to harmonize it. Is it?
Yeah.
And it's been effective. Is that what's being used elsewhere?
No, I mean in my usual dealings with the international community where we run projects, they have often given us the link. That will take you to the website.
Okay.
So anytime there's a transaction, you pick the rate there. So it's transparent. Everybody knows this is the rate we are using. That could be one option. Or like Franklin is saying, we could use the Bank of Ghana rate plus a margin. Yeah. It sets that Bank of Ghana rate plus 2% or 3% margin, and everybody would stick to that calculation. That brings some harmony. Yeah. One can plan your business, you can plan your imports. But the way it is very quite unstable. You don't know, uncertain. And then also you have agents within the port space. In the UK and other places, when you are clearing your goods, you don't need an agent. Yeah. Because you have an address system. Customs tell us that because our address system is not good, if they want to trace you, if there's an error, they need to trace you, they cannot trace you to your homes. That is why they use the agents. Now we have the national identification system. Perhaps when that is fully operational, we should think about clearing or getting away with some of these clearing agents and Goro boys, and because they all add to the uncertainty within the space. There are a lot of charges that nobody knows. They just slap some charges. I recall I was clearing a vehicle and there was a line called conversion charge. So I later showed that to a customs officer. I said, no, is your vehicle a left-hand drive? Is it a right-hand drive or whatever? When you are converting from one to the other, that is. But the agent had put that fee there. So all of those.
And you didn't understand?
I didn't understand.
But
so
who appoints this agent? Who does these agents work for?
No, they are certified by customs, so they are legit ones, and there's a whole tall list of the legit ones who charge the proper one. Unfortunately, if you land on the wrong one, sometimes you land on a wrong footing.
So you look for an agent to help you facilitate.
Of course, the clearance process is such that I can bet you it may be impossible for a regular person.
It's a market, and people are trying to survive.
I mean, you have to. Unfortunately, the illegal ones around as well.
The problem comes from the system, you know. Just like DVLE. Now that we.
But how that impacts on the currency is what I'm failing to appreciate. How that the activities of these agents who are trying to survive impacts on the currency, it's a bit nebulous.
You know how much charges you pay at the port translates into your prices. It translates into your cost, and when you need to go back again to clear or buy goods, perhaps it becomes difficult to get.
But the agency fees do not go to the government. These agents,
so it's the importer that suffers this cost.
So these are costs related to the import.
To the importation.
Exactly.
But
I don't think, do we have Honorable Carlos sorted out? Because we would like to take his last bit on this one. Otherwise, Franklin, you take the last bit and find out from you what comprehensive approach would you advocate? Since you are part of the committee, would you advocate when it comes to this area, the port area, to this committee, that you think that when it's properly dealt with, it should be able to impact on the value of our city?
Well, first of all, the central bank is represented in the committee, and I know the central bank is engaging its own and its mind and others as well on payment settlement systems, international settlement systems as well, which would alleviate the problem Prof mentioned, that people travel from here to the Far East and they are carrying close to $100,000 physical cash. I think the harmonization of these payment settlement systems could be useful. It's part of the innovation that I think we should look at. But members of the committee also include GUTA and those who interface with the port, who are willing to share information as to how some of this forex gets somehow out of the system unnoticed, right? So there's a lot of information that I suspect to be brought to bear.
Okay.
But for me, at the end of the day, I always say that in spite of all the nice things we talk about, government policy itself sometimes could have impact on the way our currency works. I'll give one example. So the government wanted to reduce the import bill on rice, for instance. I've told us about over $1 billion, if not $1.5 billion. Now, I would have thought that government policy of one district, one factory should have been laser focused on ensuring that a lot of our rice, the value chain is sorted, a lot of our rice is processed, and the market for it as well is guaranteed and sold out, right? But if the whole idea about 1D, 1F is to then spread the factories across, with sometimes startup capital that could have been utilized to focus just on rice, main staples and cash crops, then it becomes a real problem. I could also suggest that the benchmark values that usually were revised, even though it looks as if it's enhancing trade, it's being abused as we speak, right? It's 30% for certain goods and 50%.
So that should also be looked at.
We should take a look at it as well.
Let me pick Carlos because he's back on, and I'm taking his last comment on this. Honorable Carlos, if you can talk about the fact that we can take a look at the harmonization or harmonizing the rates among the multinational agencies or the companies, the shipping lines, for instance, each of them having their own rates when it comes to the dollar. If you can share your thoughts on that and also wrap up for us, because I'm sure we're not going to even get you back again. Hello, Carlos. Hello. Okay, so, hello, Carlos. Prof, let's take from you, what approach, final approach, overhaul, that would you like to see from the port as we end this? And if you had the opportunity, you would want to pitch to the committee that Franklin belongs to.
Yes, I think in all, I've spoken about the harmonization, that need to harmonize the rates at the ports, and also fixing the rate for, say, a month. But that should be one way. The other way is for government to ensure that the rate remains fairly stable, so that within the month that is fixed, the change or the depreciation will not be so significant that government will lose so much in terms of revenue. But my point about enforcing the exchange regulations still holds. I think we have not enforced that to the best of our of our ability. I expect to see maybe a task force, for instance, being set up by the central bank to move down and check some of these practices, because we have laws, people are flouting the laws, we know where the issues are, and we are not addressing them. So no matter how much dollars you pump into the system, it will leak. And I think we need to address those bottlenecks.
Okay.
Back to my good friend's committee. I think I've shared this view in the Business and Financial Times, and I still hold that view. I don't think, I stand to be convinced that it's the Minister of Finance that should be doing this work. Although, yes, Bank of Ghana is represented on this. The Act setting the Bank of Ghana clearly specifies that it has to ensure price stability, which includes exchange rate. So if there is the need to unravel some of these issues, I think the committee should have been set by Bank of Ghana. The same committee could have been set by Bank of Ghana. If there is a need, I've heard your terms of reference, that one of which is to undertake a survey. Bank of Ghana has a research department. They can undertake that survey. The good thing about this committee is that it sends a signal to the international community, to the business community, that the government is concerned about addressing the exchange rate depreciation. However, it also sends a bad signal that Bank of Ghana cannot do its job, and therefore Ministry of Finance is taking over to ensure that we address this problem. For me, it's problematic.
Okay.
And I think we need to address that.
Okay, I'm going to take quite a number of you.
I wish I could just say something.
Let me
quickly.
say though that there's somebody, and I have to do this real quick. Somebody says, Yao from Tema, Sami, our problem is trade misinvoicing, that is import and export. And then this one says, good evening, sir, nice and wonderful discussion, very deep. You are doing a great job, but Ghanaian leaders will never change. Our big men are the cause of our suffering in the country. One will import goods from another country at a low cost. Then some of the greedy officials here in Ghana will charge you 5 times the expenses, yet they blame politicians for every problem. Some officers are also part of this. You made so that clients will run away and leave their goods. Good evening. I think that it's not too clear. So that's it. Carlos is on the line. I'll take his final submission because he's going off and then we're ending. Hello, Carlos.
Yes. Good evening. I think so. That's it. Carlos is on the line. I'll take his final submission. Hello, Carlos.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Hello, go ahead. Carlos, we can hear you, so you just go ahead. I think we can rely on the...
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ajumain Sami. Yes, if I heard you rightly, you were asking why we couldn't harmonize the exchange rate for these agents.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm saying that I was supposed to speak about why we can harmonize the exchange rate for these shipping agents for them to charge the same rate. Indeed. If you remember, when I was talking earlier, I said that the one minister, specifically Professor Ameya Kofi, fixed this rate at $55 per bill of lading at the point. And every shipping agent that was operating within the shores was to charge this rate. Unfortunately, they just rubbished this whole thing and they didn't mind him. And secondly, as I opine, they were charging or using one rate and one figure until these antitrust laws kicked in. Okay. When antitrust laws kicked in and they realized that they could be held for cartelsism, they decided to go their separate ways in terms of charging and fixing of exchange rate, but still held on to the association as an operational or as a social group. Okay. But ideally, they decided to break up and said that they were not formed as an association commercially. So, Sami, if you ask me, I would say that it is not a legitimate charge for any government to decide to give them a fixed exchange rate to pay on. The question I expected you to ask is, how do we get this rates or this charge is regularized? I think that as a matter of urgency, we should find legislation to support these operations within the ports of Ghana. It is only in Africa, and specifically West Africa, that these charges are pronounced. If you go anywhere in the countries where these foreign multinationals are coming from, nobody and none of them can do what is happening or what they are doing here in Ghana.
Okay.
In UK, Germany, Holland, and so on, the maximum anybody could charge for this kind of fee is about 25 euros per bill of lading. I have done extensive work on this problem, and I know what I'm talking about.
Okay,
I think
so
that we shouldn't get any rate for them. We should look at the legitimacy of these charges before we even move on to if we should, as it were, consider it as a charge or not.
For the sake of time, Carlos, I'm going to pin you here, but I hope that some of those suggestions, you would turn them to the committee as well. I'm going to pick some international news real quick, and then we come back and end the program for today.
Thank you.
A group of armed men fired upon a container ship underway some 19 nautical miles southwest of Bayelsa, Nigeria, on Tuesday, January 21, 2020. The IMB Piracy Reporting Center said that around 15 armed persons chased the vessel in a speedboat before opening fire upon the ship. The crew raised the alarm, and the 9 essential crew took shelter in the ship's citadel. Both the vessel and its crew are reported to be safe. Danish shipping major Maersk has decided to increase its bunker surcharge. This is prompted by a price surge of very low sulfur fuel oil, VLSFO, since the implementation start of the Sulfur Cap 2020. The tariff increases will be implemented across all trades and will range between $50 to $200 per box. Maersk said the new tariffs will be effective as of March 1, 2020, adding that the actual increases per trade will be communicated by the end of January. The world's largest container shipping company revealed earlier that it expects that the new regulation would push up its fuel by $2 billion per year. Germany's port of Hamburg said it is not expecting a reduction in container throughput caused by liner service changes announced by Ocean Alliance and Maersk. Starting from April 2020, the Ocean Alliance's NEU 5 service handled by Eurogate Container Terminal Hamburg is being transferred to Antwerp. This service will be run by the Ocean Alliance partner CMA CGM as FAL3 with an approximate annual volume of 150,000 TEUs.
Okay, so wrapping up the discussion in the studio with Franklin Cudjoe and Professor Quartey. Franklin, about your committee, you wanted to react to that, and then I got a very interesting message also from Wanya Meche Kumase. It says one of the major problems causing the cedi depreciation is as a result of Nigerian churches trooping themselves here. I'm not sure you meant only Nigeria, but you mean foreign churches trooping themselves. It's not the cause of traders. Every week, Mondays, these churches change the collections they get from the church. They got on the week into dollars, change them. So, my brother, the churches are killing the economy in Ghana. The government is not paying attention to the churches and how they change their monies. I think they should be looking at that angle as well. Interesting. You agree with him?
I agree, yes.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
So I think we need to be monitoring how monies get out of the country.
Exactly. That's why his committee needs to undertake
Franklin, your
detailed analysis
and then we end
of the whole thing. Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to.
We don't have to delve into the
exactly. I mean, I'm not going to say that the opinions of Prof and others against the committee, the formational committee, especially as they believe that it's going to usurp the role of the central bank, can be contested. But I just want to say that's not the reason why the committee was formed. Because some of us, before we got on it, we also understood clearly that the constitutional mandate of the central bank is to ensure price stability. But these are to ensure transparency in the currency flows. The central bankers can sit in their offices and they will be looking at the numbers through their computers. They don't have tax forces. They don't have all these persons who interface with currency.
They only analyze what comes to them.
Exactly. And I want to say something about committees. You know, I'm a student of committees. That's obviously the saying that if you see a snake, kill it, and don't set up a committee to ask what type of snake it is. But sometimes also, the experience I've had, especially when Setepe set up his committee on weaning some of the agencies off government payroll, I had the same feeling that, well, you know it, if the thing is bloated, just kicks quite a number of them off. But until I got on the committee and we started interfacing with agencies who had to show us their projections based on their numbers, where we sat through and said, you can cut this off. There's new technology, cut this off.
Then you realized it was useful.
Then I realized that we were saving close to 200 million cedis at the time.
Okay, so you believe this one would also
I think that let's see how it, not because I'm on it, if I feel that the recommendations made by people are not going to be implemented, well, I'll shout. Okay,
thank you very much, Franklin Cudjoe, President of Imani. He's also a member of the committee, the 40-member committee that government has put together to look out for solutions regarding why the city is depreciating.
And it's unremunerated, by the way. No sitting
You're not getting any money for it.
And the committee doesn't meet at the go. There are subcommittees.
And you are not the deputy chair.
I'm not the deputy chair.
Okay, and Professor Peter Quartey is the Director, Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research. That's ISE. He used to be the head of the Department of Economics. He's also been, you used to be a fellow of the Institute of Economic Affairs way back at the time.
And that's where I met him. By
yes, he was my boss then at the time too.
I also worked at the IE.
Okay, and then also on the line was Honorable Carlos Ahenkra, Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, a Member of Parliament for Tema West, making immense and very significant contribution. Also on the line, Mr. Wallace Kofi Akondo, former Commissioner of Customs, joined us with his input as well. We thank you for watching the program and see you same time next week.